Blitz from Bobby Wagner. They pick it up. Deep shot. Brock Purdy's going downfield for Deebo. Touchdown! San Francisco!
Deebo Samuel on a burner post.
That was last week when the 49ers went absolutely crazy with the explosive plays. They had 12 explosive plays against the Seahawks for 407 yards, including that 54-yarder to Deebo Samuel. Christian McCaffrey, before Tim and Craig could even get into their seats, had a 72-yarder. They had that 54, a 45, a 44, went absolutely crazy. They beat the Seahawks for the second time in 3 weeks. Philadelphia lost later that night to Dallas, and now we find ourselves as the 49ers, the top seed in the NFC. Can they maintain that, or could this be a possible trap game in Arizona? John Lund, Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown, and live from Arizona at State Farm Stadium and the Flying Saucer, it is our good friend John Dickinson. JD, how are you, man?
I'm doing well, and yeah, it really is a flying saucer.
Yeah, it's
this
weird.
Place. It's kind of a trip. It's in the middle of nowhere,
Exactly.
although there is a lot more around it than there used to be.
Yep.
But it still feels like you're just kind of plopped down in the middle of nowhere, and it's like, hey, here's this football stadium and man-made community around it. And once you get inside, a lot of red, which I know there's going to be a lot of Cardinal red, but there's going to be, I think, even more 49er red on hand here in this stadium. And the Niners trying to win the NFC West. That first goal of any team that has major aspirations, as the 49ers do, and maintain the 1 seed as well. Win out and you're the 1 seed. I think that's the mentality. Shouldn't be any reason for a letdown, fellas. Really shouldn't.
Well, let's not hope not.
Yeah.
I mean that's the goal, right? I mean, this is the first time the 49ers have been, they've been chasing Philadelphia the entire football season, and now you got the number 1 seed. You've kind of clinched your playoff berth, and now you come off a big win last week, and now you got to kind of the consistency. Now you got the injury. You talk about the injuries, but I mean, this is a game they're really gonna have to be focused and really kind of see what's in front of them. And you have an opportunity now. You got the 1 seed. You got to keep the 1 seed. So it's a lot of pressure. So this is an important football game.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And you mentioned the injuries. We'll get into that as well, especially on the defensive side of the ball. What could that be? And I flashed back to Atlanta last year with all those injuries, and they lost that game. And so we'll get into that conversation as, again, the 49ers are the top seed in the NFC after the Philadelphia have lost. But, guys, let's look back at the win over the Seahawks. Second time in 3 weeks, 28-16. Not as easy as the first time around, 31-13 at Seattle. But those big plays, like I said, 12 for 407 last week, the 72-yarder right out of the gate. And they had the Seahawks on their heels. So, Dennis, just from a standpoint of what does that do defensively when you just continue to give up these big plays? And that's surprising because of Pete Carroll defense. They've got a lot of talent on that defensive side. Just the last few weeks it hasn't worked for them, but just play after play after play of explosives.
Yeah, and it's on both sides of the ball. I mean, the 49ers start the football game off with that Christian McCaffrey was at 73 yards.
72, yeah.
And you kind of set the tone. But, Seattle battled back. I mean, it didn't feel like it was an easy game. It felt like it was a battle. But if you have those explosive plays, I mean, you can kind of flip the momentum. That's the big thing. Flip the momentum in a football game with those explosives. And on defensive side, you got to contain that. I mean, today you have a real mobile quarterback, a quick quarterback that can beat you to the perimeter and make a lot of yards with his legs, and he can throw the ball really well too. So it's going to be important that you eliminate or you contain those explosive plays on defense as far as the 49ers go, and continue to have those explosive plays on the offense, the 49ers offense.
Yeah, and Brock Purdy, really, this is a homecoming game for Brock, being from down here in the
and
Valley.
Those are scary.
Which is another big.
Those are scary.
Yeah,
when you got to play in front of people.
Back,
there's a lot of stuff going on, right? You got to get a whole lot of tickets. Yep. Everyone's in the stands. Everybody wants to be on the sidelines. All that stuff. So he's got to really lock it down and be focused. Especially when you're playing against your home crowd.
Yeah, it's another unique opportunity for him. It's funny, I got into town earlier this morning, and I hopped into the Uber and started talking some football with the Uber driver, and the Uber driver's like, hey, this is a big game for Brock Purdy, I swear. He says, hey, he's from here. People know him. People love him down here. And so that's one of the things to keep an eye on as far as this one goes. And, yeah, going back to last week, John, is, the Brock Purdy MVP case continues to be made. I know we've talked about it over the last few weeks. If they go into Philadelphia and win, as they did, he put up big numbers. 49ers were dominant there. He has another big game with all the explosive plays and finding different receivers and playmakers. And so, to me, the MVP race is on between Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott. Dak's got the tougher schedule. You could make the case if he performs against the opponents Dallas has and they keep winning, that maybe Dak has the edge. But if the Cowboys falter and Dak in some of these big games on the road has not performed at the level that he's performed at home, and so that opens the door to where if Brock Purdy can have a couple of more 3 or 4 touchdown games here in the last 4 and the Niners keep winning, I think he has an opportunity here in this final stretch drive to salt away what would be an incredible story as the league MVP.
Absolutely. It's time for our QB comparison. Let's go right there. You put us right to it. Sponsored by Friedman's Appliance, proudly serving all of Northern California with a wide selection of luxury appliances. Visit them in Pleasant Hill to see the Friedman's difference. And by our favorite, Dolce Vita Tequila. Tequila, pure and simple. And I agree with you. And, something interesting that Brock said on the morning show right here on KNBR this week was his arm is actually feeling stronger. He talked to Nick Mullins, who had this exact same procedure when he was with the 49ers. And then, of course, Nick Mullins now the starting quarterback with the Vikings. And Nick told him, be patient with your arm. It's going to come around about midseason. It's going to get stronger. And then start looking at his numbers. It's the touchdown passes, which he's now second in the league with 25 to Dak's 28. He's on pace to throw for 46 as far as yards, which would be a 49ers record. Jeff Garcia has that at 42.78. He's on pace to throw 33 touchdowns. Steve Young's record is 36, so he could potentially get to that. He's number one in a lot of these categories. We've talked about it a lot. 9.9 yards per attempt on over 70% completion rate. That's absolutely amazing because if you think of 70% plus, it's dink and duck. That's not what he does. Maybe that's the national perception, but as you said, I expect Brock to be great in front of his home crowd. He's not a guy that's going to go out and party. He's going to wear a pair of khakis and a boring shirt. He's going to look like he just got out of Kohl's Cash, like Kirk Cousins, and he's going to play a great, steady game today. I have a feeling, and like you said, if Dak goes into Buffalo today and struggles, all of a sudden, all that publicity for Dak that's been positive that pushes him into this MVP race can also, as you said, JD, push him out rather quickly. And then there's Brock sitting there, and Brock's been playing great the last number of weeks.
Historic, right?
Historic,
you think about, I think that's what people forget. There's been a lot of great quarterbacks here, right? But Brock Purdy is on pace to break all those records. He's number 1, number 2, high in all these different records. And, we talk about his long ball. I think he's thrown more long passes down the football field than anybody else in the National Football League. And that was the knock on Brock Purdy, right? That he didn't have that arm strength or whatever it was, or he wasn't agile enough and things like that. And he's proved everyone wrong. So we're actually watching kind of a historic season by this quarterback, Brock Purdy.
Yeah, he's been absolutely great.
Doubt.
Yeah, go ahead, JD.
No, I'm just going to say that it's incredible when you think of, and I know there's been undrafted MVPs, and Tom Brady, who was the late draft pick that went on to win all the Super Bowls, and Kurt Warner, who played obviously in this building with the Cardinals, as well as with the Rams. He did those big things, but you look at Brock. A Mr. Irrelevant becoming a league MVP and potentially a Super Bowl champion is right up there as far as the all-time NFL stories. Documentaries, movies, all of those kinds of things is really what we're kind of witnessing, or at least could be witnessing in real time.
Yeah, and like you said, over the last 25 years, the only non-first-round picks to win MVP, Kurt Warner, as you said, undrafted, and Tom Brady, who won it 3 times. Other than that, it's all been first-round picks. But as far as draftable players, he would actually be the latest drafted player because Brady was 199 and Warner was undrafted. So he could definitely win the MVP. As far as other guys offensively, clearly, Chris McCaffrey had that 72-yard run last week, 16 for 145, leads the NFL in rushing at 1,177. He's on a 1,500-yard pace. You got already over 1,000, Brandon Aiyuk. He's on a 1,300-yard pace. George Kittle's on a 1,000-yard pace, and Deebo Samuel's at about 966 receiving. So you could get 3 1,000-yard receivers plus McCaffrey going over 1,500, plus Brock Purdy getting over 4,500 passing yards. So I do realize that there are 17 games, but it's historic what the entire offense for the 49ers is doing this season as they get ready for the Cardinals. We'll come back, and we'll talk to JD about the injuries because it's the other side of the ball where the concerns are. A lot of defensive injuries. Who's out, who's in. We'll get into that conversation. Now, obviously, we're not close to having the inactives, but there's a lot of speculation, and Kyle Shanahan said this week with us and on the afternoon show with Tolbert and Copes, who's probably in and probably out. So we'll get into that. Plus, Greg Papa from Arizona will join us. We'll hear from Brock Purdy on the morning show if you missed that conversation as well. So tons of stuff coming up. Matt Mayoko is going to join us as well from Arizona, so we got you covered. Getting you ready for the Cardinals and the 49ers only here on the Sports Leader.
Hey everybody, Mr. T here for Xfinity, and this holiday season there's one thing every sports enthusiast needs: a fast, reliable connection to stream all your favorite sports. You got tons of stuff going on and you want to be connected to all of it, and Xfinity is the ultimate sports destination. It's the best way to stream your favorite sports. From unexpected lead changes to sudden death overtime, you don't want to miss a thing, not one thing. You need a fast, reliable connection to power the many devices in your home so you can stream all your favorite sports. It's important to have the devices in your home connected to fast, reliable in-home Wi-Fi that keeps your devices running so you don't miss out on any of the action. And Xfinity is a game changer. Treat yourself this holiday season to front row seats to all the games you love. The next generation Xfinity 10G network is made for streaming live sports, which means it's a network you can count on in crunch time. Get the fastest internet and a strong, reliable connection even when everyone is online at the same time. The Xfinity 10G network. The future starts now. Restrictions apply. Actual speeds vary and not guaranteed.
Honestly, I would say it's more a little new just with my game. You know, I've always been known for, you know, the quick game, the intermediate, and then every once in a while I'll push it downfield, but it's not, you know, like what I'm doing now, I'd say. And I feel like that's a testament to obviously Kyle, his play calls, and sort of just his coaching, you know, the last year or so of me just learning the system and being ready to take those shots, take the opportunities to go deep. And then obviously have the guys to do it with, you know, Aiyuk and Deebo and all of our guys. So I feel like it's somewhat of a new part of my game, honestly.
That's Brock Purdy talking about the deep ball. He is number one in the league on deep shots as far as completion percentage, 64.2%. And not only is he doing it in plays that are designed that way, but you saw last week a couple of scrambles where he manipulated the defense, made some deep throws, one to Pregame in particular for 45 yards. So Brock Purdy's all got it going. He leads in air yards, yards per attempt at 9.9, all those different things. The offense continues to roll. Bottom of the hour, we'll talk to our 49ers insider, Matt Mayoka. John Lund here. JD, as you can hear, is in Arizona at State Farm Stadium, the big saucer, and Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown. Let's flip it to the other side of the ball, JD, defensively. And we'll talk more about this with Matty as well. But the reason why we started talking in the first segment a little bit about trap, which I don't know that the 49ers will be in that, because they know, look, there's 4 games to go. You get all 4 of them. You're the number 1 seed, and you get the week off, and you don't play on Wild Card Weekend. But 2 of the last 3 weeks you played Seattle. There's motivation there. Clearly there's motivation when you take on the Eagles, which they did. And next week, you're going to be looking towards Christmas, Lamar Jackson, and probably the best team in the AFC in Baltimore. So you see all the motivation. Arizona is not very good, although they went into Pittsburgh and won a couple of weeks ago. We did not see them with Kyler Murray. In fact, we haven't since October of 2021 when they won 17-10 in a Trey Lance started game down there at State Farm Stadium was the last time the Niners saw Kyler Murray. But it's the injuries, JD. Ward, Hargrave, Eric Armstead, Orrin Burks, and possibly Dre Greenlaw. Where are we in terms of who's playing and who's not?
Yeah, they're vulnerable defensively because we know Armstead's going to be out. We know Javon Hargrave's going to be out. Really in the middle of that defensive line is where the 49ers are their most vulnerable, I think, to Arizona. And so, we'll see. It sounds like Greenlaw is going to be able to give it a go. Charvarius Ward as well. I think he's going to want to be able to get out there, but we'll see on him. I think he's iffy. But I know during the open portion of practice, Mooney Ward was on the side on Friday. So that typically is a tell that a guy is really trying to protect himself and maybe won't be out there for a game like today. So I think Ward's iffy. I think Greenlaw probably winds up trying to give it a go. He did participate at Friday's practice in the open portion. So it's kind of a mixed bag, but this also may be the kind of game that the 49ers are going to have to win a little bit more with their offense than the dominant defense that we've seen through the 2 5-game winning streaks.
Yeah, definitely. And the strength of this defense, I know we talk a lot about the outside pass rushers, the edge rushers, Bosa and Chase Young and those guys, but the strength of this defense is in the middle. And just quietly, I think Eric Armstead has had a fantastic season, and I think he was missed last week. So guaranteed the Cardinals will try to expose the middle of the field. They'll try to run the ball. I think way back when we go back to the first time these two teams met, they had a nice little run game. So, I think I can see a lot of stuff happen on the inside. The pressure falls on Kinlaw. I mean, he is a first-round draft pick. He's a big dude. He can absorb those double teams, but he's got to get off blocks today. And it's going to be huge between, the middle of the field. These guys, if whoever's Kevin Givens, whoever's going to be playing that other 3 technique or that 1 technique, and then the linebacker. So it's going to be important that they kind of lock down the middle of the field and not let the Cardinals have a balanced run and pass game. So it's going to be a lot of pressure. It's going to be sticky coverage on the backside. But I think early in the game, the Cardinals will try to expose the middle of the football field.
Just to talk about that, by the way, the music behind is just perfect. Baby, don't hurt me. It's very nice, very nice.
Who is that?
I don't know, but it reminds me of the Saturday Night Live skit. Oh,
Hadaway.
Nice job.
It's the old Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, that Saturday Night Live bit is amazing.
Night at the Roxbury with the guys in the club. Yeah, Jim Carrey was a big part of that. They're all in the
that
club
was amazing with Jim Carrey.
You guys know this
Head
well.
Oh, it's a great bit.
Oh,
yeah,
geez.
great.
The guys the ladies
sketch.
did not want to see at the club.
No, exactly.
Were those
Will
three.
Ferrell was in it. We'll look it up during the break. Just to talk about the middle of the field, like you said, the main thing is Kyler Murray's not running the way he used to. And when they saw him in 2021 in that 17-10 loss, he actually had 7 carries for 1 yard. So we always talk about the quarterbacks who can run a little bit. Because of that knee injury, he's not running as much. He's trying to win from the pocket. But James Conner is still James Conner, runs hard, has given the 49ers trouble in the past. When they won at Pittsburgh, he was 25 carries for 105 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, I had motivation because he's a former Steeler. But on the season, 129 carries, 631 yards. That's almost 5 yards a pop, 4 touchdowns, no fumbles. James Conner is one of the most underrated backs in the league, and he has hurt the 49ers in the past because of the style he runs with. He runs really hard.
Yeah, he's hard and he falls forward, right? I mean, and he doesn't mind, that when we talk about one cutting up the field, that's what he does. And contact doesn't bother him. Actually, he wants to contact, and he falls forward. He's a tough runner to bring down. You really contain him. And again, like I said, they're going to attack the middle of that defense and see what they can do in the middle.
What's interesting, too, is, again, I'll go back to that game in 2021, JD, which is when Kyler Murray was good in that game, 22 of 31 from the on his passing, and 104.1 was his quarterback rating. But he was throwing to guys like DeAndre Hopkins and A.J. Green and big wide receivers, and now it's the tight end Trey McBride that leads them in receptions and yards. And it's guys like Rondale Moore. It's quick, fast, undersized receivers and a big tight end game. Connor hasn't been much in the pass game, but in the past he's done really well in the screen game against the 49ers. So kind of a different look today for the Cardinals, which a couple of years ago they had size and Murray would just kind of throw it up. And now it's these quick, fast receivers and a tight end who's a big part of the passing game.
Yeah, and I'm fascinated to see how live Kyler is in the run game, because that used to give the 49ers a lot of trouble, but there hasn't been much of that with him coming off of the injury, and he really is trying to be more of a pocket passer. And Kyle Shanahan had pretty high praise for the system that they're running, and Kyler specifically basically saying that they're doing a lot of the things they were doing earlier in the year, only doing them better because Kyler's come back and really fit in and looks like a more poised, capable, and consistent type quarterback. And so, the talent has always been there. I know things didn't kind of went awry between him and Cliff Kingsbury and all of that, and he is out, and then he wound up being injured. And so, Murray has been somebody that's hurt the 49ers in the past with his legs, and, hitting the deep ball to Hopkins. Don't have to worry about that anymore as far as the deep shots. But the Niners have done it. They did a nice job containing Hurts in the run game. And really the 49ers, it hasn't been quite the problem in the past. Some of it is matchups. They haven't faced a lot of quarterbacks that really are live in the run game. But that's been something that's hurt them. And I always just kind of bookmark going into a game. But fortunately for San Francisco, the Cardinals really haven't done as much of that with Kyler coming off the injury.
No, not at all. And just kind of piggyback on that, he is. I think he's going to try to get out of the pocket because he has had success. I don't know what the way his knee feels, but do you think, Dennis, that defensively they kind of do what they did against Philly, which is you kind of must rush a little bit and make him beat you from the pocket, or is Murray too good to do that?
Well, I mean, I think you kind of have to. I mean, you can't pin your ears back and just kind of rush this guy because he's shifty, right? I mean, he's not the tallest guy in the world. He's quick as heck, and he can beat you to the edge. And these quarterbacks scare me because he's so fast. Even if you have contained, he can still beat you to the edge, and that's what he does. And then he finds plays down the field. He'll run. He's quick. I mean, you have to have a mush rush. You have to have a really contained and disciplined rush. You can't take inside moves because he'll take that. And in the middle, we talk about the middle of the field again. You have to contain him in the middle. If you're two gap, you got to contain that A and B gap because if it's man coverage, he's going to take off. He's going to take off because before you figure out he's running the football, he's 10 yards, 20 yards down the football field because he's that quick. So you're going to be disciplined on your pass rush today because he's a guy that can kill you with his legs.
As far as the stats are concerned, and again, these are a little misleading because Kyler Murray's only been back for a few weeks. It was Josh Dobbs early. Clayton Tune has had a start, the rookie out of Houston. But as far as the offense, their 26th overall is Arizona, 172.4 passing yards, which is 30th. The rush attack, not as bad, though. It's top 10, and this is where the challenge is going to come for the 49ers defense, especially with all these injuries and Hargrave and Armstead in the middle specifically out. So Arizona's going to look to run it. 123.9 yards per game against the number one rush defense in all the NFL. And the Cardinals only scoring 17.7 points a game. Again, they've had kind of a musical chair as a quarterback, and Murray's only been back for a few weeks. So obviously that's going to be skewed a little bit. Matt Mayoko is going to join us. He's going to jump right next to you, JD, down there in Arizona at State Farm Stadium, getting ready for the Cardinals and the 49ers. The latest on the injuries. What is Matty hearing as well? We'll do that coming up next. John Lund, Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown, along with JD live in Arizona, and Matt Mayoko to join next, only here on the Sports Leader.
I've spoken on it plenty of times of how explosive our offense is, and it's just a matter of time before they make a big play down the field or a huge run. I mean, the way they started the game was incredible. I think as a team we just got to be more consistent. Today was a little sloppy throughout the game through all phases, and we still found a way to win, which is what most important. And we just got to continue to get better.
Thanks for joining us. That's Fred Warner talking about the win, 28-16 over the Seahawks. The offense dominated with those 12 explosive plays for 407 yards. Brock Purdy continues to roll. He had 4 touchdown passes. Defensively, Fred Warner saying they've got to be better. Will they be better today with all these injuries? Let's get into that as well. And could this be some sort of a letdown game after 2 against the Seahawks, 1 against the Eagles, and next week against the Ravens? With all these injuries, could this be a tougher game than expected? We got a full house down at State Farm Stadium at the Flying Saucer in Arizona. We got our 49ers insider, Matt Mayoko, which you need to check out all his stuff. He's there. And the 49ers Talk podcast. We got JD, John Dickinson, super reporter, and ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, Adam Copeland. What's happening, boys?
Here. Yeah, I'm here.
How you guys doing?
Is JD here? All present and accounted for?
I think so. Oh, good.
All right,
you guys all good?
We're good.
All right.
What's up, guys? How we doing?
We're doing great. Yeah. Sunday.
Pretty good. You said this could be a letdown game. Matt was just talking about that, right, Matt?
Was I really?
No, you weren't.
Oh, okay.
I was wondering why John might have said that. Why would John have said that, Matt?
Well, I don't know why he would have said that. You'd have to ask John.
John, does this have to do with injuries? I heard you talking
Well, I
Atlanta.
think
Don't worry, I
both.
was dialed in on my way in.
I mean, guys, doesn't this kind of scream that when you have these injuries? Unfortunately, I'm thinking of like Atlanta last year, but again, Bosa was missing. That's different. And maybe Ward's going to play, maybe Greenlaw's going to play, but we know the 2 defensive tackles aren't going to play. Oren Burks is not going to play. And then you've had these, you've had the Seahawks twice, which are going to be up for you. The Eagles, clearly. My God, is that ABBA in the background? For the love of God, man.
It is. Little dancing queen.
If you guys aren't dancing, then there's a problem.
Whoa.
Did we turn it up?
I mean, yeah, we turned it up. What are you kidding me? We're not going to turn it down.
They're playing some bangers.
Wow.
Kohler, I think. Oh, no, just
awesome. But
I see Charvarius Ward out there dancing.
Okay, so maybe that's a good sign.
That must mean that the groin is okay. I think he's
you don't
going to
dance
give it a
with a
shot.
bad groin.
I lied about him dancing, but I'm not lying. I think he's going to give this a go today. I would expect Greenlaw to play, but then to me the bigger questions are the defensive tackles. Obviously both of those guys have been ruled out as far as Armstead and Javon Hargrave. So this is going to be the Javon Kinlaw, Kalia Davis, Kevin Givens, and T.Y. McGill game for those guys. So I can tell you one thing. For those 4 guys, it's not a letdown game because they want to put some good film out there. And Kinlaw's putting himself in a position where he might get a decent payday as a free agent.
Well, it's nice that Kinlaw's playing at the level he's been playing. Matt Mayoko, Adam Copeland, John Dickinson. We got John Lund and Dennis Brown back in the studios in San Francisco. Matt, in terms of the defensive tackles and what we need to see from them today, this is a tough run offense, I should say. A top 10 rushing offense. James Conner will be out there. It's a different looking offense than we saw back in week 4, I want to say it was, that we saw Josh Dobbs. To me, I always call Kyler Murray, I don't like the letdown, I like to call him a landmine. I think that if they're within 9 points entering the 4th quarter, I'm a little bit concerned about what Kyler Murray can do to you because of his ability to extend plays. That paired with a running game, missing 2 DTs, I can understand a little bit of concern up the middle.
Yeah, and I mean, this could be a game where the defense isn't as strong as it has been and can be and will be because of those guys missing. But man, the 49ers offense is so good too that I just don't I see them being able to now win those 13-10 games as well as the 38-35 games. I mean, the offense is probably going to have to pick up a little bit of slack and probably puts more on their plate as far as finishing these drives with touchdowns. And I think the Cardinals are going to have a difficult time matching up defensively for what the 49ers offense puts out there today.
Where are you, Matt, where are you on just what you've seen from Kyler Murray to this point and the fact that they haven't been throwing the ball deep down the field, shorter stuff. He hasn't really been running around. The Niners have had problems with him running around, obviously coming off a significant injury. Quarterback live in the run game. Just kind of your general thoughts on how the Niners handle that in addition to try and slow him down, Connor.
It seems to me that the time away from the game might have helped him out as far as playing the position of quarterback, because it does seem like he's spending more time in the pocket and he's going through his reads. I mean, this is not Jalen Hurts. So the 49ers game plan was to make Jalen Hurts play quarterback. I think Kyler Murray's doing a better job of that. I'm not sure that the numbers really bear that out, but I think the 49ers have a lot of respect for how he plays the position. So, they're going to have to put pressure on him while also remaining cognizant of him and his ability to break outside and get those yards with his legs too. But that's something we haven't seen so far. I think he's only averaging like 25 yards rushing per game. Barely, I think he's at like 100 yards in the 4 games that he started. But I think that what Kyler Murray is trying to do is trying to take his game to another level by being more of a quarterback, a pocket quarterback, and then, not use his threat for the run is like the second in the progression. If the first guy's not open, boom, run it. He's not doing that. He's staying in the pocket and he's trying to go through his reads.
Adam Copeland, John Dickinson, John Lund, Dennis Brown, and Matt Mayoko joins us here at State Farm Stadium. The Arizona Cardinals and the San Francisco 49ers. Niners have a chance to, they call it a hat and T-shirt game, bro. That's what Tim Ryan was calling it, too, because they have an opportunity to win the division here with a win and a loss or a tie by the Rams.
The bro is part of that?
He put the bro, hat and T-shirt game, bro. It was punctuated, too. I thought we should make note of that. In terms of the secondary, you said you think Charvarius Ward's going to try to give it a go today. This is a receiving core that's got a lot of smaller, kind of fast dudes out there. Yeah. What kind of threat do they pose as a guy? I mean, we just talked Kyler Murray. If he can get outside of the pocket to the outside, but to me, the thing that stands out is him rolling to the right side, pointing downfield, looking for a guy to run, and then just kind of heaving it, or he gets out into the open field. What kind of threat do they pose today to the secondary without a healthy D-line and potentially not 100% Ward?
Yeah, I mean, the 49ers defensive backfield has kind of risen to the challenges this season. As far as when the season began, I think a lot of people thought that the offensive line and the defensive backfield, specifically the cornerbacks, were kind of the weakness of the 49ers.
Sure.
And it hasn't been that way. I mean, the 49ers' pass defense has been good. They've done a good job against every kind of wide receiver, the bigger possession guys, the shifty speed guys. So they've done a really good job against all these. But Ambry Thomas will be tested today because they're going to be in their nickel defense a lot. So that means, probably Lenore will be back to the slot. We'll just see how they work with Charvarius Ward, just how crisp he is, and if they do kind of mix, have Ambry Thomas stay in there. But with the Cardinals running so many 3 wides, 49ers, they won't really have a need for a third linebacker in this game. It's going to be mostly their nickel D, and I would assume that the guys that kind of were responsible for the defense when the 49ers got on that roll, moving Lenore inside and having Ambry Thomas and Charvarius Ward on the outside. I think that's the defense you're going to see in this game. So I would expect them to go after Ambry Thomas and continue to kind of test Ambry Thomas and make him, make some plays today.
I was thinking, as they're playing Arizona today, Niners have, I can't remember if it was you or somebody else. I mean, it's a note, but I know we've talked about it a bunch this week. The players on the Niners on the offense who are on pace to go over 1,000 yards from scrimmage. So you go Kittle, you go Deebo, you go Aiyuk, and Christian McCaffrey. I think they've all got over 5 touchdowns scored as well, which is incredible. I think back to Kurt Warner kind of surging his career here in Arizona when they go to the Super Bowl, 3,000-yard receivers. It was Bolden, it was Fitzgerald, and it was Steve Breston. I'm just the comps to Kurt Warner from Brock Purdy to me are kind of cool situationally, but then it's pretty impressive to see what he's going to do here. I like the comp rolling into this one. I think it's just kind of a cool mirroring story.
Yeah, I mean, kind of that underdog thing. But Kurt Warner was a lot older.
Much older,
he like 4 or 5 years older than.
Because he'd been out of out of NFL camps and all that.
He was Arena
time.
League. He was NFL Europe, so he had kicked around a lot. But you know what? It's kind of funny because I remember probably the first time I saw Kurt Warner play here. We're sitting over there in the corner. And I remember there was this throw that he made to the far sideline, too, and I had the perfect angle of it, a pass to Larry Fitzgerald, like an out-breaking route, and he let that ball go before Fitzgerald had made his break. And I remember having that view and going, wow, that's what good quarterback play looks like. And that's also just watching Purdy. Like, that's what Brock Purdy is. It's like those... The awareness, the anticipation, the timing, the ball placement, all those things that Brock Purdy has done so well. That's what you saw from Kurt Warner, but at an older, at a later stage in his career. So I kind of laugh about Brock Purdy has all these weapons, but you know what? These weapons that he has, they're so much better because of Brock Purdy,
Sure.
too. And,
Sure.
and Brandon Aiyuk is Exhibit A. His yards per game with Brock Purdy is like 30 yards per game receiving better since Brock Purdy took over than what Aiyuk was, for the first 40 games of his career.
Have you talked to Aiyuk or Purdy about that chemistry? Because that was something I felt like last year we talked about going into the season. People were ready for Aiyuk to take the next step. I can't imagine for a receiver having camp with a quarterback, chemistry, and then you get 3 different quarterbacks by week 6, right? Which is what happened last season. And Aiyuk still had a damn good year. He's on better. I mean, has he gone over 1,000 already this year?
Aiyuk has.
He has, and I think it took him every game last year to get over 1,000. He's done it in fewer than games played by the team this year. Have you talked to them about that chemistry?
What's funny is that they really, think about it, last year at this point they had not practiced much together at all, and then this offseason they didn't practice at all, but you saw it in training camp where you could see that. I mean, it's embarrassing, but I was charting the passes during practice, and at the end of the day, it was Brandon Aiyuk repeatedly, the number one receiver, the number one target on it seemed like almost every day in practice. But what Purdy does so well is that I don't think he even sees the number on the jersey. He just knows who's run, the routes being run, and at the end of the day, is this the Deebo Samuel game? Is it the George Kittle game? Is it the Brandon Aiyuk game? Or which two of those guys? The last game was the everybody game.
It's kind of incredible that it was everybody last game, that everybody had an offensive outbreak. Here with Matt Mayoko, Niners and the Cardinals coming your way. We'll have kickoff for you at 1 o'clock right here on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader. So what's the big difference we're going to see? I mean, obviously Kyler Murray, but just sort of wrapping things up on the thoughts on this game. The big difference from this team from the last time you saw him. I mean, it's tough anyway to play a team in your division twice every single year, but it's even weirder when you play a team twice in 3 weeks like they saw Seattle, and then play another team you saw back in week 4. They had a bye. Would they have a bye week 13, 2 weeks ago, the Cardinals did?
The Cardinals are the 4th team the 49ers have faced this season coming off a bye.
So there you go. It was a bye last week, week 14, coming off a bye. What do you make of this?
I was going to say, Murray, their best offensive player is back, the Cardinals, and the Cardinals' best defensive player is back. But Budda Baker, who missed that game week 4, he's questionable now with an illness. So we'll find out in the next, 20 minutes or so what his status for this game is. But I think that's it. And you know what? I'm impressed by the way the Cardinals play. This was a team that I honestly thought had a chance to go 0-17, and they've won some games. They've been competitive. I think Jonathan Gannon is doing a very good job. And how good of a coach is he? Well, look what's going on in Philadelphia without him. He was the defense coordinator last season for the Eagles, and the Eagles aren't. They were the best defense in the league last year, or one of them, one of the top 2 probably. This year they've fallen off. So I think Gannon has these guys playing hard. You go up and down their roster. There aren't very many familiar names, but these are all guys who kind of seem to be made of the right stuff and are playing hard. So, hey, this would make, I don't know if it'd make their season. It probably kind of would, to beat the 49ers in a crowd, in a stadium, their home stadium, where there's going to be 65% 49er fans. So the 49ers are going to get the Cardinals' best effort, no doubt about it.
I thought it was telling also that Kyle Shanahan had the praise that he had for Gannon in comparing it basically to Shanahan's first year with the 49ers, where they got off to the awful start, then they acquired Jimmy Garoppolo, they got hot down the stretch, but there wasn't a lot of talent on that Niners team.
There wasn't.
But they fought in every game, and by the end they were winning some of them once they figured out the quarterback.
Yeah, no, being around that situation, you could tell that was not a good team at all. But
it was the happiest 0-9 and the most together 0-9 I've ever seen.
They believed, bless their hearts, they believed that better days were ahead, and better days were ahead a lot sooner than everybody thought. And so, is there a Fred Warner on this Cardinals team? Is there a George Kittle on this Cardinals team? Is there, those kind of building block types of players? I don't know.
Trey McBride,
but they play hard.
Tight end.
Yeah,
he's been a nice player for them. And when you're running Garrett Selleck out at right tackle, I think you have to believe there's nowhere to go but up, right? When you're that banged up in that Philadelphia game, they were losing. They had no O-lineman. That was terrible. So really appreciate the time as always, Matt. Matt. Enjoy the game, and we will look forward to the 49er Talk podcast after the game tonight.
Well, thank you very much for that plug. I appreciate that.
Of course,
thank
dude.
you.
Matt Mayoko, our 49ers insider from NBC Sports Bay Area, Adam Copeland, John Dickinson here from State Farm Stadium, ahead of Niners and the Cardinals. Let's throw it back to the studio. We'll get you the building, the game plan coming up. John Lund, Dennis Brown back at the headquarters in San Francisco.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. They're down at State Farm Stadium. John Lund, Dennis Brown back in San Francisco. We'll come back, and as Cope said, we'll build the game plan coming up next. Still to come, Brock Purdy from the morning show. We'll hear from Kyle Shanahan as well as we get you ready for the 49ers and the Cardinals live from the Valley of the Sun, only here on the Sports Leader.
Well, it feels great, man. It's a testament to the coaches who, those guys work so hard to dial the plays up every week, keeping it fresh. We learn new playbooks every single week, and it's challenging, but you got a group of guys who are bought in. Obviously, you have a great play caller who notices our tendencies and fixes those and, runs plays off of what we've ran in the past. And you got a lot of guys who go out there and just execute it. I think today, we were pretty sloppy today, even still, and I think there's a lot of stuff we left out there. But obviously, the win's the most important thing, and I know we got the guys who go out there and fix those.
Christian McCaffrey on the year, over 1,100 yards rushing. He's on pace for over 1,500 yards rushing. He leads the NFL by a wide margin over Raheem Mostert, the former 49er. Getting ready for the Cardinals and the 49ers, and then it's the Ravens on Christmas Day next week. John Lund, Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown, and at State Farm Stadium in Arizona, Adam Copeland joins us. Boys, it's time for Building the Game Plan. That's sponsored by Golden State. When you succeed, we succeed. Visit us today at goldenstatelumber.com and by River Islands. Come home to River Islands and Latham. Tim is so lazy today. And Danny would never have let this happen. And discover the San Joaquin River lifestyle. Thank you.
There it is.
With its lakes, parks, and schools, start your tour today at riverislands.com. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Dennis, let me start with you. We'll go Copes on the offensive side of the game plan. What do you say for the defensive side of the game plan?
I mean, well, first of all, you got to set the tone, right? I mean, you have to get after this Cardinals offense and not give them hope, not give them confidence. They got a quarterback that kind of, if he gets in a rhythm, he's going to be able to kind of, chew you up on the backside. I mean, and he's got the ability to make plays with his legs. So you got to contain him. You have to have control rush. And you got to handle the middle of the football field. I mean, you can't let them kind of develop a run game and then have a pass game. You got to make them one-dimensional and put it on Murray's shoulders. So you got to contain the middle, and you got to contain him as a quarterback. But you got to get out. You got to set the tone early. You just kind of have to do it.
Absolutely. And, of course, James Conner running the football. It's a top 10 rushing offense. They've struggled to throw it, but they've had 3 different quarterbacks start games this year, and the first time the 49ers have seen Kyler Murray since October of 2021, and they lost down there 17-10 when Trey Lance started the game with 16 rushes for 89 yards. Copes, on the other side of the ball, the offense has been rolling, but we heard Christian McCaffrey come in, those 28 points against Seattle. He feels like they left some on the field. They didn't have consistent drives down the field, but they did have those 12 explosive plays. So what are they looking at offensively today?
Yeah, I don't think it's insane to suggest that game was closer than it should have been. I even think you and I talked about it numerous times earlier this year, John, that the game against Arizona and even the New York Giants early on in those games, maybe in the first half, closer than they should have been. Had Arizona gotten a field goal before the half, a touchdown before the half, week 4, instead of kicking that field goal, this game score might have been a whole lot different. I think it was a 16-point difference the first time around. So for Christian to say that, I'm with him. Look, defense sets the tone, I think, always for the Niners, and I think it has to today in terms of stopping Kyler, containing Kyler. Don't let him get out and run on you, and to extend some plays, because that's where he's most dangerous, the backyard football type stuff when they're hanging around at the end of games. But for me, offensively, it starts with the guy we were just talking about, McCaffrey, and then the other guy, Deebo Samuel, who's got to continue his hot streak. 7 catches for 149 and a touchdown last week, and had the rushing touchdown. Brendan Aiyuk had a huge game, Kittle had a huge game, but it all started with the 72-yard run for McCaffrey that opened things up, and then the J.P. Mason rushing touchdown. We talked to Kyle Shanahan earlier this week, Tom and I did, and he said, what's funny is we expect every play to do well, but we did not expect that play. It caught us by surprise that he went for 72 on the first play from scrimmage. He says when you open things up like that can be a backbreaker. You got to keep pedal to the metal, get out, put points up early, make sure the defense can suppress the offense of Kyler Murray, because he's the one who's going to beat you if they come back and hang around this game. And because you're banged up, offense has got to be on point. They've got to be clicking. Defense has got to get off the field on third down. But it starts in the backfield with McCaffrey and frequently with Deebo Samuel. Yeah, there's no doubt. And last week I thought was a perfect example of everybody. I mean, McCaffrey with the 72, he goes over 100 rushing. Deebo and Aiyuk, 149 and 126. George Kittle made some plays, including the 44-yard touchdown. We talk so much about the weapons, and really all season long, they've kind of taken turns. It was a Deebo day, it was an Aiyuk day, it was a McCaffrey day. All of them worked together and had all these big plays, and yet they only put up 28 points. And so that's why I think McCaffrey's saying we left points out there because they made these big plays, but they only cashed them in for 28 points. And so I look at this game, and while it may not be a trap game, guys, I almost think that it might be like that Raiders game last year. Now, I don't know that it's going to go into overtime, but remember, it's not exactly like the Raiders had, Ken Stabler out there. They had a backup quarterback, and he just had a day. But defensively, if they're missing up to 5 starters, they could be vulnerable, especially against the run. But I think the offense scores a ton of points against this Arizona defense, which, by the way, for people who don't know, Jonathan Gannon is the head coach. He was the defensive coordinator of the Eagles last year. He was the guy who was like, we're going to slash their throat and everything in the NFC Championship game. So if there is motivation to be needed, maybe it's going to be needed, or maybe they're going to point to the other side and say, remember, that guy beat you last year when he was in Philadelphia.
And it's a divisional game, right? Yeah. I mean, you have to understand. I mean, you got to take care of business in your own division. and then you can move forward. But I think it's important to understand that this is a divisional game. This is the Cardinals, and they know you. They know you well, and they know how to kind of expose you and attack you. So you're beat up on the defensive side. They're going to try to expose it. You got to come together as a team, set the tone, and shut them down early.
Dude, he really said that? He said we're going to slit his throat?
Yeah, he did.
I don't even remember that. He really said that before the NFC Championship?
Yeah, there was these guys, and they were driving alongside him as he was going to the game, and he was driving in like a Jeep. And they looked at him, and he did the throat slash, and they went crazy. It was like this viral video that went crazy, and so he thought that, and obviously, that was part of their motivation.
Wait, we got to talk about this national anthem.
Can you not? Well, it's a practice one. You can practice. You can talk during the practice one, right? It's not the live.
No, who's this singing it?
I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Some sort of group, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a group of guys down here. A trio of gentlemen down here in
barbershop quartet.
There it is. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, they kind of look like it. One guy legit might be rocking a black with the red 22 Emmett Smith jersey.
Right.
Like he might be
that's
rocking
a good one.
Oh, Emmett.
He legit might be rocking a Cards Emmett.
Wow, and Emmett. He was so good as a Cardinal. No, he wasn't.
Can you imagine?
Dude, you've had quite the musical variety today.
Accoutrement, accompaniment.
We had Dancing Queen a little earlier. I mean, my goodness, man. You've had
Can't
it
miss
all.
with ABBA, dude.
No.
Can't miss with ABBA.
No.
Well, they're getting after
You should time it over under on the national anthem, and you should win it.
Oh, man.
Should have timed this thing out.
So this is the thing is, if the Niners are in the bowl, we'll be there, I assume, for the pregame. Well, we will be there for the pregame, but we'll be there to hear, hopefully, that pregame anthem.
Oh, they got that prop. They got the over-under prop.
We can lay a little action on it, dude.
You know what happened? I did that one year, and you'll be surprised that I lost, because what happens is they get nervous during it. So I read an article where they said, I don't know, it was a minute 42 or something. And so I'm like, well, then I'm going to go, I think I said over, and then they get nervous during the game when they actually do it, and they go faster. And so I actually lost. Yeah. That's typical.
Tough.
That's typical of me.
That's a rough day.
Yeah,
that's a rough day for you. Speaking of bets, dude, you see the line on this game? Huge line on this game. That's up to 12. I saw Niners favored by 12. It's a big line. And again, they won by 16 first time around. Could have been a little bit closer. With Kyler Murray again, I think landmine for me is the best terminology for him. Whether you're a better or you're an opposing defense, just because what's that play last year, John, where he extended that play against the Raiders for 30 seconds almost?
Oh my God, and they won that game out of nowhere.
It was like 19
Near
seconds
the goal
or something.
line.
He was down in the red zone. He just ran around. To have a play go for that long, defenses are eventually going to break down, or he's going to just scat through and get a touchdown.
Yeah, he can be tough. And again, he hasn't run a lot this year. Maybe the knee's giving him trouble. And again, the last time they saw him down where you are at State Farm Stadium, he had 7 carries for 1 yard, so he wasn't doing it as much. But we'll see how the Niners defend it. Is it going to be like Jalen Hurts a couple of weeks ago where they make him beat him from the pocket? That'll be one thing to watch. All right, top of the hour. We'll jump back in. Your conversation, like you were saying, Copes, with Kyle Shanahan. Oh, he's starting over again. So Kyle Shanahan's conversation with you and Tom, that's coming up next at the top of the hour as we get you ready for
Bang the Under.
Bang the Under. Get ready. Jeez, how many times you got to practice it, man?
It's my second run, though. It's my second heat.
Okay, do you have the stopwatch going? Cardinals and 49ers right here on the Sports Leader.
It is for me.
Play action to him. Purdy going to throw it on the sideline. Kittle's got it. The flag is down. 10, 5, touchdown! San Francisco!
Thanks for joining us. Getting you ready for the Cardinals and the 49ers. That's a 105 start. John Lund, Dennis Brown, Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown. Thank you very much. You don't call a doctor just some guy.
I earned that.
I know you did. That's why I went back. I was just like, calling a doctor Mr. This is Mr. Jones. That's Dr. Mr. Jones to you.
Thank you.
And Adam Copeland is live at State Farm Stadium. Speaking of Adam Copeland, Kyle Shanahan. Always, every week, on with Tolbert and Copes, and this week, no exceptions. Here's Kyle getting ready for the Cardinals and the 49ers.
What's going on, Kyle?
What's up, Coach?
What's going on, guys? How's it going?
Good. Is it getting harder? I know you're going to answer no to this, but I'll ask it anyway. Is it getting harder and harder to find stuff to nitpick at during the course of the game when you go over the film?
Not at all.
Damn, I knew you were going to say that.
I was so ready to say yes, but no, it's not at all, man. It's we had a lot of yards, a lot of explosives, but there was a number of times that we messed up, and luckily we had a number of big plays, a number of explosives. But yeah, you're always frustrated as a coach. It's never perfect, and that's how you got to be, I guess.
That's the life you chose to be frustrated. So okay, when you're watching the film, how many plays will you watch and say, you know what, we did it right, they just did it better? Like I tip my hat to them on that play. How many times will you say that during the course of watching the film?
Not much, just because if it's like a man-to-man situation, and someone just gets guarded real well, you know those guys, they got people who can play and cover too, and or if someone gets beat on something of protection, that stuff does happen. But usually it's when something is stopped, it's just, all right, do we have time to just go check it down? Mm-hmm. Or if they stop the guy underneath, it's like, but do we have time to go right to here? And so like you always like to feel there is an answer somewhere,
mm-hmm.
but it's hard to get to that. They can make that the problem. Like, all right, there is an answer, but man, we got to ask us to block for 3 more hitches here. And all right, well, they did a good job getting to there. So you always are trying to come up with a reason or an answer for the guys, but it's kind of why we can sit there and talk about one play forever, because there's just so many things that go into it.
Boy, Brock is so not a check down guy, is he?
No, he's not. He's not, which is cool. And you don't want a guy who just, I always say it, but you don't want a guy who decides on Wednesday that he's throwing deep.
Yeah, exactly.
But you want a guy whose DNA is to always look for the deep throw, and you want a guy who can still see it and react and not do it when it's not there. And that's what I do like with Brock, because he's not just saying, hey, I'm just chucking it deep here. But he really believes it is there. And so he's always trying to look at it through that lens. And sometimes it doesn't seem there, and it's an easy check down. Mm-hmm. But if Brock thinks it's there, he's throwing it. And so sometimes you don't know that as a person or someone watching it, a player or a coach. You don't know that till the end of the play, until it's either in our guy's hand or their guy's hand. And those are the ones where you hold your breath and you're a little tight, and then all of a sudden our guy catches it and not theirs. And you're like, great read. That was awesome. But you definitely held your breath before you felt that way.
Okay, you mentioned throwing it long, so I wanted to ask you this real quick. Tell me if I'm wrong on this. I watch some guys, they'll throw deep balls into like double, triple coverage sometimes. And my theory is the quarterbacks, depending on what team they play for, don't get to throw it deep a lot. So if it's called, they're just like, I don't get to throw it deep a lot. I'm just going to chuck it deep and see what happens.
I think sometimes also it's really tough to make the right reads in the heat of battle.
Okay.
It's in that pocket and everything. I mean, it's nice with the clicker in my hand sitting in my desk in my office. It's not too bad from watching it on TV or in the stands and stuff. You can see it, but when you're in that pocket and you can't see everything, so you got to have keys and stuff, and you got to see whether that safety's on his toes, whether he's backing up, and everything's got to be tied together with the pocket and the look and the coverage, and there is a rhythm to everything.
Yeah.
And you can have guys who sit there and take a bunch of hitches and just wait and then yell 500 and chuck it deep. But a lot of times you want them to do the right decision is in the timing of the play.
Yeah.
And as you start to take that hitch, a lot of people are deep and they're driving down on it. And if you can time that out right and you can see that they're driving as you're hitching to throw something, then you're throwing it deep. But at the same time as you're hitching to throw it deep, a lot of times they're backing up. And can you take that quick second one before you get hit and go to the middle guy, or a quick third one and go to the bottom level? And those are the things that you're always trying to do. Guys who just throw it deep all the time usually can't read that stuff. And it's not like an intelligence thing or anything like that. It's just the vision of how they see things, how they are in the pocket, how the field's distributed, and the way they're attacking. And it's not an easy thing. That's why there's definitely not 32 people on the planet who are real good at it.
Talking to 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan, nice enough to join us. Does it every week here on the UMA guest line. So you're talking about when Brock sees something open, like he sees it and he thinks it's there, he's going to take it. In coaching all the quarterbacks you have, is that a trait that's easier to get out of a guy that doesn't naturally have it, like to rein or to pull that gunslinger or that sort of that risk-taking ability? Maybe it's not even risk-taking, but the ability to notice that throw, to pick that up, and maybe to take that chance? Or is it harder to rein it in for a guy who just likes to let it fly?
Well, the guy who just likes to let it fly is usually a backup.
Yeah.
Because they keep both teams in the game. So you'd rather have that than a guy who just doesn't have, who's not going to do it. But you got to understand there's going to be a lot of misses. And the coolest thing about people who do it in the timing of the play is they usually make the right decision. And so that allows you to get explosives deep when they're there, get explosives short when they're there. And you don't have to sit there and guess. You can really play the play. And that's what helps you be consistent and play at a higher level. And I think that's what Brock's done. I mean, he doesn't have to get a ton of attempts to get all of his yards. He kind of takes what the defense gives him, but he does it in an extremely aggressive manner because his DNA definitely is to take the deeper one. So he is trying to get that, and you better defend it. And then I think he will see it right. He usually does. And if you force him to check it down, he will, and he'll do that aggressively. And that's what you want because our guys on the checkdowns are pretty good.
I don't know what stats mean, if anything, to you. I've always been like a yards per attempt guy, not as much a percentage guy. But to see a guy who has the yards per attempt that he does, close to 10, which is just insane. I went over it last week. I said Brady's best year was 9.2, Manning's best year was 9.6, and I think Warner had one at 9.9, which is where he sits now. But to also lead the league in percentage, I mean, just to you, who's been around this game forever, how insane are those two numbers to go? I mean, 9.9 is ridiculous, but then to lead the league in passing percentage just seems impossible.
Oh, it is unbelievable. I wouldn't even know those numbers until I know them now because our guy's doing it. And so and I realize when you look at it and you're like, oh, that's number one. Is that a big deal? And then you look and you're like, oh my gosh. And you look at the history of it and you think about some other situations you've been in. And I can't believe what he's doing from the numbers aspect and also just how he's been playing. And it was very similar to this last year. He didn't get as much out of the 7 games or whatever it was, but he's been unbelievable. And you just think of the people who have done this before, and I forget what the stat was, but it had to do with yards per attempt and all that stuff. And the 4 guys behind him, this thing someone sent me, it was like, I think it was 2013, Aaron Rodgers had done it, who was the MVP. Then I think it was like 2004, Peyton Manning, who was the MVP. Then it went to like 1988, Boomer Esiason, who was the MVP. Then the 5th one was 1984, Dan Marino, MVP. And then to have Brock with those 4 guys behind him in those years, it kind of put it in perspective on what he is doing on the field.
It's pretty incredible. Talking to Kyle Shanahan here on the UMA guest line. So he was on the morning show earlier this week. And the thing that I think there's a new knock every week, which is so funny, is he's not throwing it deep. And then last week, 10.5 air yards per pass attempt, I guess, was a career high for him in his short career. But when he was on the morning show, Brock, this week, he had said, yeah, I do think I'm throwing the ball a little bit deeper, and I do know that that's a part of my game that has developed. Is that something on your end that's tangible, that you've seen that develop, that skill set, which is, to us, I think, impressive because of the injury he had at the end of last year?
Yeah, honestly, the best deep ball, more consistent deep ball throwers that I've been around are not the guys with the strongest arms. I mean, the strong arm is what allows you to throw it late if you can't read it in time. Yeah. And the stronger your arm is, the worse you get at doing that, because you always sit there and you can wait. And you just wait till they get there because you have the arm to make it up, but that usually leads you to the wrong decision. Guys that kind of play within their timing, their own arm, leads them to the right decision. And that's what I think is great about Brock, that, he's not going to sit there and take 3 hitches and then throw a late 70 yards. That'd be hard for him to do. It'd be hard for a lot of quarterbacks in this league to do. But I also think that's what makes him really good at it. No one wants him to do that, unless we have a Hail Mary. In the Hail Marys, you do that. You buy as much time and just launch it. But it's what allows you to play with, to make the right decisions. And, some guys, when you can make the right decision in the time of the play, he has all the arm that you need, and he always has. And he did last year, and he had to come back from injury, but he's had throughout this year. And I think the more he gets, the more reps he gets in anything, which he is in our offense, he gets better at all of it because he is a real quarterback. He does see it, and he has the ability to do the stuff.
So when it comes to the Warriors, we always talk about the gravity of Steph Curry, how he just kind of pulls everything towards him and makes the job easier for everybody else. I'm wondering about the gravity of Christian McCaffrey and how that manifests itself on the football field, because I got to imagine just having him out there. Like I've always said, Steph could not shoot the ball and he'll be an asset because everyone still has to act like he's going to shoot the ball. And again, it makes everybody else's job easier. Even if McCaffrey doesn't touch the ball, he's out there, he's a threat, and people got to be aware of where he is and how he's lined up. How does his gravity kind of manifest itself on the field that makes, everyone else's job a little bit easier?
That's why I think Steph's such a good comparison, as much as you can crossing over sports like that. But, first of all, not even talking Christian, like just when you have a threatening run game, just the run game does that to a defense. Mm-hmm. No matter what they want to do, no matter how good your quarterback or your receivers are, if you have a good running team and you're willing to run the ball, that's a problem for defenses. They have to honor that, which makes everything else better. And then you add in an elite running back like Christian with a good running team. So that's just twice as big of a problem as it could be just in a normal situation. And then on top of it, you go out to what Christian could do to all the guys who cover him, which are usually linebackers and safeties. If he wasn't such a threat in the run game and we didn't run it so much, then go ahead, put some corners in there to play linebacker and safety, because then they're in positions that they could have a better chance covering them. But you got to think, first of all, how to stop the run. So that kind of all ties together and stuff, and that's similar to how Deebo is too. Because you got a guy who, if you're handing it off to him or throwing a screen out there to him, he does have a threat to go the distance. So you got to be very careful not to give him a lot of space, because if you give any of those guys space, they can make you pay. Just like if Steph Curry's sitting in the corner all day, you're not going to just give him 5 feet over there. You better have someone on him closed out, because he's going to hit that 3 every single time. And I feel like that balances out with these type of guys, and especially when you're running the ball, when you're runners, when you're a big time receiver, it's a huge deal too. Which I've had, having guys like Julio Jones and Andre Johnson, and they're rarely alone. There's going to be a safety cheated to that side, because just one guy on them, there's a threat of a go route at all times. So you got to cheat the defense a little bit, which makes you more susceptible in the run game, but it also helps out the receiver on the other side and makes reads a little bit easier for the quarterback. But when you can put that receiver in a running back position or the running back out to a receiver position, then it kind of just multiplies.
Is it standard, or is it just case by case? Like after the 72-yard run by McCaffrey, where he gets pulled out, and then immediately JP Mason steps in for a touchdown there. We were all joking, sitting around, of course, fantasy owners like, what the hell's going on, man?
Like you?
We're like, yeah, but we're also going. Well, yeah, don't worry, I wasn't going to the playoffs anyway. We're all going through the game just started. He's too tired to punch it in. We're sort of joking about it, but what's the call there for getting somebody else in after a run like that?
We didn't. Even though we want every play to be like that, we actually were a little surprised that it went that far, and I feel like it was just our natural reaction, like, oh my God, he just ran, like, save him, someone save him.
Right.
And I blame it on Bobby Turner. He cares about him so much, and which is right. But he tried to get his guy out. He looked a little out of breath at the time, but it hit me when I got home. I was like, it definitely didn't hit me to all the fantasy people are going to be mad at me. It hit me when I got home and I was watching the highlights, and I'm like, man, that is kind of messed up. He just ran 70-something yards. I bet he's not that tired. We probably should have let him in, but we would have got him in if JP didn't score on that, but sure. JP made a hell of a run, and Christian was pumped about it. But there is no standard. I think if I had it over, we would have left him in for the second play. It was more just an impulsive thing that you get a guy a big run. Usually you take the guy out so he's not dead on the drive. But I did feel kind of like I don't want to say it, but it wasn't that cool of us. But it was definitely an accident.
Well, we got to hope he shatters 22. He's got to go way over 22 at this point, right? 21 was like,
I better score.
Yes,
I better score this handoff or I'm coming out.
We were punishing him for not finishing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate the time today, man. Good luck this weekend in Arizona. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Coach.
There you go. Getting ready for the Cardinals and the 49ers on KNBR AM and FM San Francisco, the sports leader Cumulus Media Station. That is Kyle Shanahan, who you can hear weekly with Tolbert and Copes. Adam Copeland is down at State Farm Stadium in Arizona. John Lund, Dennis Brown in the studio in San Francisco. It's time for our player to bank on. That's sponsored by good friends at Casino Matrix. Just drop in for gaming, dining, sports. Please gamble responsibly. Of course, 1-800-GAMBLER and by 5 Star Bank. Learn more at 5starbank.com. I'll start with you, Dennis. Give me a player to bank on today.
It's a player that I've been kind of praising, and he's had his time. He's had his time to learn a little bit. He gets his opportunity now to kind of show, what he's been playing. He's been playing really well.
It is. I know who it is.
Javon Kinlaw. I think it's going to be his day.
Time.
I mean, I think they're going to focus on the middle of the football field. I think he's gotten better in his pass rush. He's played the run really well. He's playing a little lower now. He's disengaging guys a little bit better. So, I think this is going to be a game because I think the Cardinals are going to attack the middle of the football field and on the defense. The Cardinals offense attacked 49ers defense. So I think it's going to be a lot of focus on him in the middle of the football field, and I think he's going to have a good game. He's going to be player of the bank on today. Javon Kinlaw.
It's a good one. I'm going to go with the guy right behind him. I'm going to go with Fred Warner. Dre Greenlaw, of course, banged up. You talk about the middle of the field. Fred Warner last week, maybe one of the most fiery moments we've seen in the Kyle Shanahan era after the DK Metcalf incident on the field where he just sort of runs to the sideline, and I really like seeing that. His reaction to that following what had happened the week before or a couple weeks ago when they were playing the Eagles, right? And you get the ejection of Dre Greenlaw after the incident on the sideline with the security official for Philadelphia, but for Fred Warner to walk off the field and then walk to the sideline, sort of fire up the crowd, fire up the team. One of the coolest still shots I've ever seen. This guy's playing at as high of a level as he's ever played. They'll need him today. They'll need him to stop the run up the middle. They'll need him to help get into the backfield a little bit and support some of these young D tackles that are up front, as you mentioned, in Javon Kinlaw. So I'm sticking on the defensive side of the ball. Kyler Murray, as I mentioned, is a landmine. Fred Warner is where I'm going on my bank on today.
That's a good one, and the defense is going to need some help. Some guys are going to be banged up in this one, and we'll get the inactives pretty soon as well for this game against the Cardinals. And again, offensively, number 2 total offense in the game in the NFL, 402.3. Number 3 in the pass, 262.7. Brock has been on fire lately. And number 3 in the rush offense for the 49ers, 139.6, and points scored, their third, 29.2 points per game. So the offense may have to get it going a little bit more with some defensive starters out. We'll come back. We'll look at the games affecting the 49ers early and late, including the Cowboys and the Bills, which is this afternoon. We'll do that coming up next as we get ready for the 49ers and the Cardinals down in the desert, only here on the Sports Leader.
I wouldn't say I'm faster. It's just like when I'm in the open field, I think I just got another gear that people haven't seen. So they're like, yo, Deebo, I ain't know you was that fast, but really can move.
Deebo's been great over the last few weeks. You remember that 48-yarder against Philadelphia after that big sideline fracas, and great again last week. He's been the key to the offense, and I know we always talk about Christian McCaffrey kind of being that orbit guy that takes everybody with them and tilts the field, but Deebo does that as well, and hopefully he'll continue to do that as the offense needs to be big with some potential injuries. Guys, let's go through some games in the NFL early. Now, Saturday night, I love this because I love college football, but now the college football is over. You get those games on Saturday. So then I tell my wife, yeah, I'd love to do that, but there's 3 games I got to watch on Saturday. And then she's like, what about Sunday? Oh, there's all those ones on Sunday. What about Monday? Nah, Monday, that's not a good night. What about Thursday?
What about Thursday
bad night. So now we're talking Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
It's great,
Very
though.
nice.
It's great.
Starting to take over. Detroit did win to get to 10 wins last night. That was the most significant thing as far as games today, guys. Dolphins lead the Jets 17-zip amidst news that Aaron Rodgers could come back next week. Titans over the Texans. Remember, C.J. Stroud is out 13-3. This one could affect the 49ers because these are playoff teams. The Buccaneers trying to win the NFC South. They're at halftime. They lead the Packers 13-10, and the Packers are trying to stay in the playoff chase. So whoever wins the NFC South is probably going to play the loser of the NFC East. So, and then that would affect the 49ers because if that 5 seed beats the 4 seed from the South, potentially see that team in the first round of the playoffs if you're the 49ers keep that 1 seed.
Yeah, and, I mean, you don't look at the scoreboard right now, but you kind of look at it a little bit. I mean, especially since the 49ers have kind of clinched a playoff berth, then you kind of want to, start thinking. You don't want to get too far ahead of yourself, but you do kind of – you tend, as players, you tend to kind of look at the scoreboard and kind of see potentially who you could play.
Yeah, I mean, Detroit's tough for sure, but you're talking about the NFC South. You're looking at the Saints down there. You're looking at the Buccaneers. I mean, it's unfortunate one of those teams has to make the playoffs. However, you look last year, the Bucs, they host a playoff game. Dak has to go down to Tampa and ends Tom Brady's career. So, you can win the division. You can end up with a situation like that, or you can end up with a situation like the Beast Quake back when they were a 7-9 team, the Seattle Seahawks, right? So, it's tough when you win your division and you're maybe not as quality of a team as a team like the Cowboys or the Eagles or one of those teams that will eventually have to go on the road to play a playoff game. But that's why the Niners controlling their own fate here is instrumental to their hopes in getting to a Super Bowl again, not having to play that wild card weekend, and then to make sure that the NFC Championship goes through San Francisco or through Levi's Stadium is a big deal here.
Friends and family game, Falcons at the Panthers 7-3 at halftime in the rain. Bears and Browns tied at 7 apiece as well. The Chiefs still struggling. They're just barely up on the Patriots 14-10 at the half. And then the afternoon games, and again, not only the 49ers and the Cardinals, but a couple Commanders at the Rams. Rams trying to stay in the playoff chase there. Sunday Night Football is Ravens at the Jags, and the big one to watch as well, Cowboys at the Bills. We rooted for the Cowboys last Sunday night I don't know if I'd go that far. We rooted for the Eagles to lose to the Cowboys more so.
Root against the Eagles.
Yeah, that's what we did. The Cowboys did improve to 10-3. They got the 7-6 Bills. Bills trying to continue to a playoff push in the AFC. So, again, back to not liking the Cowboys. Got to get the Bills to get the Cowboys, so that would make them 10-4, try to give themselves a little bit of a breathing room. The Eagles don't play until Monday night against the Seahawks at Seattle. And again, back to being a Seattle fan to a certain extent or wanting the Eagles to lose. They don't have Darius Slay against DK Metcalf and company, so maybe Seattle could pull an upset and give the 49ers a little breathing room there.
Could they lose 3 in a row, though?
They could.
That'd be huge.
Yeah.
But it's tough to play in Seattle. We know how tough it is that 12th man. So without Slay being in them, they have an opportunity, to upset the Seattle or the Seattle Sox to upset the Philadelphia Eagles.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, and they the situation for Philadelphia is dire there because if they lose that game and Dallas does win at Buffalo, that's going to be a tough game.
Yeah.
But they want to make sure they get back the top of the NFC East there. So in terms of Dallas, by the way, that win over Philadelphia, that do anything to change what you thought of them? To me, I mean, obviously it's their most quality win of the season. To by a big deficit, they did beat Seattle the week before, but they gave up 35 points. Dallas did in that victory. So the Niners obviously I think have the 2 most quality wins in football this year. The win over the Cowboys Cowboys and the win over the Eagles. Cowboys, everybody had said they'd gotten right and they'd fix some things. They'd become a different team after the Niners played them and after they lost to Philadelphia by, was it 5-5? I think it was in Philly before they beat them before they beat them second time around. I guess my question here is, do they look like a different team to you? Because they were beaten up. They were bullies. They were beaten up on teams that were at the bottom of the league. However, they get a big win over the Eagles, take back atop the NFC East. I think the Dallas Cowboys look more dangerous than they were when the Niners saw them. I still don't think they're on the same level on either side of the ball.
They're dangerous at home. They're the best team in the NFL at home. Yep. And on the road, they've only beaten teams like Carolina and the Giants. So, I mean, they're 3-3 on the road. They're world beaters at home. The only game that was even close was the Seattle game. They've absolutely crushed teams at home, which, again, it's critical. I'd like to see them lose to the Bills today because the 49ers then, wherever and however they play the Cowboys, you just want to get them on the road versus home. They've been very different in the two venues. Let's get Greg Papa's thoughts on everything. Of course, the play-by-play voice and my good friend is going to join us, and right next to you, Adam, in Arizona, as we get you ready for the Cardinals and the 49ers coming up at 1:05, only here on the Sports Leader.
'49ers and the Arizona Cardinals coming your way for kickoff at 1:05. We'll have it for you right here on KNBR 104.5 and 680. The Sports Leader. We'll hand it over to the broadcast team, Tim Ryan and Greg Papa here in about about a half hour or so, have them take you up to kickoff and through the game. We'll be back with you here for the post-game show. Greg Papa will join us here from the broadcast booth in just a minute. Adam Copeland live from State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. We got Dennis Brown and John Lund back at the KNBR studios in San Francisco. Guys, we've been talking about it all morning and all afternoon long. Sounds like, or seems like to this point, or this type of game, heading into this game, John, you've been using the comp of Atlanta last year. Again, this is a later game in the season. I think this is a much different team, but mobile quarterback. Niners were missing 7 defensive starters. They're not quite as banged up this time around, but if there's a concern about this game, it's about the injuries, is it not?
Yeah, I just, I look at this thing, and I don't think they're going to get beat. I just think it's going to be, I think the number's 12.5. I think it's just going to be closer than what people think, because if you look at the defensive injuries, but it looks like maybe Ward would play, maybe Greenlaw would play. I was thinking maybe there'd be up to 5 starters, but you've played Seattle 2 of the last 3 weeks. You're going to be up for those games. You played the Eagles. Clearly, you were up for that game, and you got the Ravens coming up. And it seems to me it would be human nature plus the injuries. Kyler Murray has been a pain. It's an in-division game, so I'm not going to say throw out the records because you don't do that.
Sure.
But Arizona's been a pain down there, and especially in that stadium down there where they actually had to make their home for a little while during the pandemic. So it kind of adds up to me to a game that, well, I won't call it a trap game because I think that mentally this is a really strong team and they understand what's on the line here in the last 4 weeks. But it's certainly, when we looked at this and we do that win-loss game at the beginning, when the schedule comes out, we go, oh, Arizona. You kind of just got to look at it. And then one thing that I know Greg likes to talk about is, Arizona's coming off a bye week. So those are a lot of things that you put into this kind of jambalaya thing and say, hey, you know what? Maybe it's going to be a little closer than we think.
I'm with you. They're coming off a bye week, and Matt Mayoko made note of that with us a few minutes ago when he joined us earlier today, our insider from NBC Sports Bay Area. This will be the 4th opponent this year the Niners have played coming off a bye, and here to talk about just that, he'll be on the call at 1 o'clock today. It's the voice of the Niners, Greg Papa. What's up, Greg?
Wow, the clarity in your voice. It's like you're standing and sitting right next to me.
And how about the clarity in your eyes? It's like we're looking at each other, dude. Yeah, you look good. You look good, man.
I got a good night's sleep. I'm not
so
even
did I, man. You feel good?
I'm ready to roll. Just saw Dave Pash, the voice of the Cardinals.
I saw him over there.
Ian Eagle. We got a Syracuse reunion. So we were just talking about how different Kyler Murray is. He's playing with discipline, a completely different offensive philosophy he's had, really going back to Allen High School in Dallas and Oklahoma with Lincoln Riley, and then early here in the NFL with Kingsbury. It was open, spread, air raid. He'll be in the shotgun a lot, but he's under center a lot. He's trying to win from the pocket. It's clear that his career is at the crossroads right now, so I'm not going to say this is the best version of Kyler Murray because he was pretty good. One year he threw 25 touchdown passes plus and ran for 10. So, but he's clearly trying to run the offense with discipline and stay in the pocket.
So, we were talking about this a little bit a while ago about his rushing yards down a little bit, and that speaks to what you're talking about. He's playing more in the pocket. They did a great job against Jalen Hurts, not allowing him to climb the pocket.
Right.
Kyler was a different type of runner anyway, but we're not seeing as much of that. How different is this offense going to look today?
It's going to be different. And with Kyler, he's just a better pocket quarterback than Jalen Hurts, and Jalen can be good, but Kyler, and I watched him a lot at Oklahoma. I did his first game that year against Central Florida, and Lane Kiffin, and became obsessed with him when he won the Heisman. He could make high-quality throws from the pocket. He made a back-of-the-end zone post touchdown in the Big 12 championship game to beat Texas that was unbelievable. So he's doing more of that. Tim Ryan noticed he's trying to run the zone read away from T.J. Watt in Pittsburgh a couple of weeks ago, and he got run down from the backside. So maybe he's not as electrifying Kyler Murray as he was pre-ACL, but he's close. And I think he's matured. He's been humbled a little bit. They gave him that huge contract at over $230 million, but they also put the 4-hour homework clause in where he has to be on the iPad at least 4 hours. Brock's on it 4 hours an afternoon. That's unbelievable. But you're seeing it translate into, I think, a more disciplined quarterback, because let's face it, they're going to have 2 top 15 picks. They may pick as high as 2 or 3 after, Chicago gets Carolina's pick, and then there's some good quarterbacks out there. So do they keep him and draft maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. or somebody else, or do they draft a quarterback and trade him?
And you talk about this Cardinal offense, and today, you got the challenges up front with no Kinlaw, no Armstead. Do you see them leaning more on the James Conner in the running game?
I would think so, Dennis. That's my major concern. And again, the quarterback is under center more than he used to be, but he'll be in the gun a lot. James Conner, second best yards per rush average in the NFL in inside runs, over 5.5 yards a rush, and he had a big game against Pittsburgh. So without the Gravedigger and without Eric Armstead, Javon Kinlaw is playing the best football of his career. Kevin Givens will also mix in there, and then you got Kalia Davis who will play as well. They got T.Y. McGill up. Robert Beal Jr., the rookie, is going to be up for the first time as a pro today. He'll be mainly on the outside. The good news is Dre Greenlaw will play, and you are going to get Charvarius Ward back for the game today. But that's the major concern. And then their trio of wide receivers. We know about Hollywood Brown not having a great year with the lingering heel injury, Dennis, but a good player. Rondell Moore in the slot, but having Charvarius Ward back allows Demo to go in the slot to at times man match him. They're not going to have Mooney Man follow anybody around, although the one guy you may do that to later in the game if he's a problem because the receivers are small. Moore's 5'7", Hollywood's 5'9". The one big receiver is Michael Wilson out of Stanford, is back after missing the last 4 with a shoulder and a neck injury, and he goes 6'2". But, yeah, I think first and foremost, this is a good running team. They don't stop the run very well, but they are top 9, and when you look at their yards per rush, they're one of the best in football. So getting James Conner on the ground is going to be certainly assignment 1 today, and he's tough. He's a big, strong back. He's hard to tackle.
Greg Papa, State Farm Stadium in Phoenix, along with Adam Copeland, John Lund, Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown, as we get you ready, and we're in the studios in San Francisco as we get you ready for the 49ers and the Cardinals. How do you just overall look at this? And you and I have talked about this during the week during our show. Coming off a bye, that's been an issue for the 49ers, for the Cardinals. It's a perceived to be a lesser game. The Cardinals in division have given them trouble. Kyler Murray has given them trouble. They've struggled at times in that stadium. So I know this isn't the best version of the Cardinals, but I just get the sense that with everything that kind of adds up the way it is, a couple of key injuries in the middle of the defense, that this is going to be a tougher game than maybe we think.
Well, you look at it, John, the Niners are 10-3, and they've won 5 in a row, and you got Arizona's at 3-10, so inverted records. But since Kyler's been back, they're 2-2 with quality wins. Their last game, they played Pittsburgh and beat them soundly at a goal line stand on the 1-yard line. Then drove 99 yards for a score. They beat Atlanta in his first game back, and they played Houston competitively, had a chance to win that game. But make no mistake, the Niners are the better team. They are going to be minus some people, and Spencer Burford will be down today at right guard, but Feliciano is capable. We talked about the losses at D tackle, but I think getting Greenlaw and Ward back, Charvarius, are huge. So they have enough to win this game. This team knows what's in front of them. If they run the table, they're going to be the 1 seed, and Kyle flat out said it. You're hearing in our pregame interview. They know if they're the number 1 seed, they have 2 home games required to get to the Super Bowl. If you're anything less than the 1 seed, you may have 2 home games, then the third one could be on the road in the NFC Championship game. And we know the route. When they got there in 19, it was 2 home games and rollicked all the way to the Super Bowl. And when they fell short the last couple of years, they went the other route. So they know what's in front of them. The Niners are the better team. I think they'll try to lean on them. We talked about Arizona being strong running the football. The one area they are not strong is against the run. They give up almost 140 yards a game, 3rd worst in the NFL, and they've had a lot of injuries on that side of the ball. Their top tackler, Kazir White, is down. Lucky Fotu is down. I think Budda Baker's going to play today.
They said with an illness he was dealing with.
He's sick. They didn't, I think he may have been food poisoned overnight.
He is active, though. I just saw the inactive. He is active.
And he is going to play today, from what I hear.
There you go. With Greg Papa here from State Farm Stadium, Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Lund, Niners and the Cardinals coming your way. Just a final thought from you on this one, Greg. We were talking, I hate the term trap game, but because of the injuries to the defensive line, it's a game where you just got to be more wary of that. You talked about the run attack of the Arizona Cardinals. James Conner, a top 10 runner in the league. It's a good rushing offense. Kyler Murray, a guy who's not going to climb the pocket, we said in the same way, but he can extend plays and can beat you. A general thought about the tone setting in this one. You mentioned the run game. I'm looking for Deebo out of the backfield heavy.
Yeah, Deebo, last time he played Arizona, October the 1st, did not have a touch in the game, and he had the big game against the New York Giants in the home opener 10 nights earlier, but he fell on the ball and he hurt his rib. Deebo's going to be our pregame chat today, and there's no doubt Deebo's just going off.
It's insane.
Lately, when you look at the numbers in the 3-game sweep over Seattle, Philadelphia, and Seattle, historically good, and I think that's the area you've identified. Now, it could be a lot of people. It could be McCaffrey, could be Kittle, could be Aiyuk, could be anybody, could be Kyle Juszczyk, because the guy that gets the ball is the guy that's most open, but I do expect it to be a heavy dose of Deebo today.
I like that. Last week, 7 catches for 149 and a touchdown, and the 1-yard rushing touchdown as well on the ground. He's been a force over the last few weeks. Greg, Tim, have a great call, man.
Well, you sound good, man. It's like
Thanks,
you're
dude. It's
sitting
like I
right
got a good
next to
night's
me.
sleep, too. I know. It's crazy, right?
Do you want to do color today?
No, I think I'm going to let Tim do that, dude. I'm going to leave the nicknames.
Do you want to do play-by-play?
I'll give you the two. Yeah, I would love to sit in with you one time. But you know what I will tell you? The one line Tim had last week to me, he goes, they're going to need to protect Brock, ADP, high security for Brock. I love that line last week. It's a good line, dude. Have a great call, Greg.
All right, man. Good seeing you, Coach.
All right, good deal.
Bye,
man.
Johnny.
See you, John.
Bye, Dennis.
Have a great call, Greg.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm still with you guys. Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Lund. I'm live here from State Farm Stadium. Niners and the Cardinals coming your way in about an hour and 20 minutes. We'll hand it over to Tim and Greg in about 20, only here on the Sports Leader.
I'll tell you this right now. Dennis is getting his Tony's Pizza ready to go. His order.
I've got my order. I got it from you.
I know you do.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be very good. Today's Spotlight. Deebo Lenore getting that corner position. We were worried about it earlier in the year. Not so much anymore. He's playing at a higher level. And here's Dante Whitner praising the growth of Deebo Lenore.
I like what Deebo Lenore is doing with his physicality, attention to detail, and not giving up the explosive plays, being versatile, being able to go inside in the slot, being able to play outside, but also his physicality in the run game. They're going to be able to match 5 defensive backs sometimes versus 2 tight ends and 2 wide receiver sets, especially in the playoffs when they see Dallas and Philadelphia.
That is Dante Whitner praising the growth of Deebo Lenore. Of course, against the Cardinals today, James Conner could be a challenge as well. He's one of the best running backs in the league that no one talks about. Coming up next, the Steve Young Show and more as we get you ready for the Cardinals and the 49ers, only here on the Sports Leader. Steve Young joins Tolbert and Copes every week on Wednesdays in the 5 o'clock hour. You cannot miss it, the best half hour of radio. And Steve gave a stat that blew our minds.
Let me give you a stat. I have never in my life heard anything like this. If you take all of our throws behind the line of scrimmage, 0 passing yards, just take them all, average yards per attempt for 0-yard passes, leads the league. Leads the league on their own. Like all the other teams in the league throwing downfield.
You're saying is when the Niners make when they complete a pass that is for 0 air yards behind the, like Brock drops back
behind the line of scrimmage.
Deebo catches it still behind the line of scrimmage. Even those yards per attempt is greater than every other team's normal yards per attempt.
Normal yards.
That's absurd.
100%.
That's wild.
That is insane. And so what does that say? It says that Kyle Shanahan has hit the dream scenario for quarterbacks and for offenses. I'm going to make it as easy as I can for you and difficult for the defenses. And that's a stretch that every offensive coordinator has been trying to do from the beginning of time. That stat tells me that that guy is the king that can create the environment with great players, that you can lead the league in attempts behind the line of scrimmage while the rest of the team tries to go downfield, yards per attempt. It baffles the mind how amazing this juggernaut is right now, and we just got to keep it going.
they're doing the exact same stuff. They're just better at everything. I got a lot of respect of how they've done this year. I thought they were real tough at the beginning of the year. I thought we had to play flawless on offense to beat them, but that was a real tight game. And since then, they have how many ever games it is, 9 more games of reps. They're playing very hard. They're playing together. They've added some really good players, especially Buddha, who they didn't have. I think they've always been real talented on special teams. They've also gotten a very great, talented quarterback back. So, and they remind me of a lot of us our first year, where we started out 0-9 and finished 6-10. I think everything they're doing is the right way, and I think they're a real tough football team.
I also think that's Kyle Shanahan being very nice of an opponent that could be easily let down. They're 3-10, and he's not wrong. I mean, Kyler Murray, and they do have some guys that are talented offensively. They do have some guys that are talented defensively, but and I do think this game, guys, is going to be closer. Adam Copeland is down at State Farm Stadium in Arizona. Dennis Brown is here, Super Bowl champion. John Lund, a few minutes away from throwing it to Tim and Greg for the network pregame show, getting ready for the Cardinals and the 49ers. I'll start with you, Dennis. Is he just being nice, saying nice things about a 3-10 football team?
I mean, yeah, you kind of have to be, right? I mean, you got to set the expectations. This is a football game. The Cardinals are a professional football team. There's professional football players on the field. And you got to respect that. But here's what you do. You go out, the first series, the first quarter, and you shut it down. I don't think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be one of those games where offense scores 30, 35 points, maybe 40 points. I think there's going to be some times in this game where the defense is going to be exposed a little bit because of the injuries, but I think they'll put it together. This is a team that's still, Kyler Murray's Kyler Murray. You know what he's going to do, but I think this is a team that you can get after early. You can shut them down and knock the confidence out of them.
What do you think, Coach?
I think that's where it's going to start, man. I think you get to Kyler early. We were just talking to Greg about this, that he's a different-looking quarterback now. And Matt Mayoko told us earlier he thought maybe the injury was going to be good for him in his processing ability or his learning of the offense, that taking this time to learn before he stepped right in. We saw this happen with Russell Wilson this year in Denver, where back-to-back years now he's had different offenses and took him some time to get used to it early on. He's been very efficient and effective. Greg just talked about the crossroads that Kyler Murray's career is at here. There's an opportunity for them to go out and add another quarterback if they want this offseason, to move on from him if they decide that's the direction to go. So he's playing for something here, playing for a little bit of his career here. So Niners are going to see a different type of quarterback. It's going to be a different Cardinal offense than we saw back in week 4. Again, you control your own destiny. This is step 1. Division, check that box, get the hat and the t-shirt like Tim is talking about. Move on, get yourself a couple of home games with the number 1 seed in the postseason, and then you take care of business in the playoffs. But you can go perfect in division here, or continue the perfect run in division with a win today. It's a team you should beat handily. Go out and handle business early and suppress this offense.
Injury's not as bad as we thought, too. If you're just jumping in here, Drake Greenlaw is active. Yeah. He's going to play. Javarius Ward, he's active. He's going to play. So those are good things. And I guess the biggest thing would be the 2 interior defensive tackles. Now, we already knew, and they've played a couple of weeks without Eric Armstead, but you add Hargrave to that now. And I think that if I know it, the 49ers certainly know it. James Conner through the middle to test those guys early. And you mentioned this earlier, Dennis. Kinlaw is having a great year. But automatically, it's not just he goes from 25 snaps to 50 snaps and he does the same thing. One of the reasons I think he's been very effective is the 49ers have expected him to play 50 or 60 defensive snaps and be great. He hasn't been able to do that, but with Hargrave here, then he can slip into a secondary role, play 25 great snaps. He's been really good. The question is, can he translate those good snaps now to being a starter so that the Cardinals don't take advantage of him, so like Philadelphia did in the NFC Championship?
Yeah, and the pressure's on him. I mean, he's a first-round draft pick. The expectations are super high. He's came in, he's had a lot of nagging injuries, so this is an opportunity for him to kind of build his resume a little bit, prove to the coaches and, other teams around the league that, he is a good defensive tackle in the National Football League.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do because it's an opportunity for him to step up here. Now, we've seen him slide in, and we knew a few years ago, 2019, is when we started to see this building of the D-line, and it's where it all starts for the Niners' success. And a lot of times they talked about getting 70% of the snaps in. These guys are playing a lot more. The depth, basically since Randy Gregory got here, has been built, it seemed like, week after week after week. Gregory gets here, then you see Chase Young traded for Kinlaw ends up starting playing much better in the middle, picks up his first couple of sacks. This is, you've got 7 or 8 deep here. This is what they had in 19. It's what they had in 21. It's what they're looking to have at the back end of the season here. Again, it's nice to see a guy like Kinlaw sort of figure it out. You want to see a guy who's dealt with injuries early in his career, start to build towards something. And again, this is a weapon. This is a guy who's playing for something here. And if he helps him out down the stretch, he's going to make some money this offseason.
Great stuff, Copes. We'll talk to you after the game. Appreciate it.
See you then, man. Yeah.
That is Adam Copeland. He's live at State Farm Stadium. Dennis Brown is here. Is the order ready for Tony's top of the hour? They open in 3 minutes.
It's a walk-up order, so
you're gonna walk up.
I walk up,
exercise?
to North Beach. It's a little wet outside, but it's all worth it. It's all worth it. Trust me.
All right, have a great time. However it is, you're going to celebrate the 49ers and the Cardinals. Tim and Greg are going to take over. I'll see you at halftime and give you the update from there right after the game. Be right here as Tim and Greg will give you the post-game show, and then we'll jump on right afterwards from here in San Francisco. Adam in Phoenix as we recap what is hopefully a 49ers victory, and we'll get you ready for the Ravens on Christmas Day. Thanks to Danny Barely, and thanks very much to Tim, who pretty much ran the ship today, but Danny's here, of course. And of course, I'm going to be nice to Danny because he's with us every single weekday. Danny's the best. All right, for Dennis, for Adam, for John Dickinson, and Papa as well, and many others, we appreciate it. They are coming up next as we get you ready for the Cardinals and the 49ers from State Farm Stadium in Phoenix, only here on the Sports Leader.
Welcome to State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. Greg Pop alongside Tim Ryan. We've not been here since October the 10th of 2021 when Trey Lance actually started the quarterback his first start for the 49ers. That's the last time we've seen Kyler Murray quarterback against the Niners, so a lot has happened. Niners come in 5-game winning streak. They are 10-3 with Green Bay losing last Monday night to the Giants. T-Rock, the Niners are mathematically in the playoffs for the 4th time in the last 5 years. And then later, Sunday night after our win over Seattle, Dallas beat Philadelphia, so now they are the number 1 seed. So if they win out, they will be the number 1 seed throughout the playoffs in the NFC. And today is a T-shirt and cap day. If
Love
they win
that.
today, they will win their 2nd straight NFC West.
And that's always step number 1 when you start a season. How do you get to the playoffs? You win your division. So big opportunity against a division opponent. The Arizona Cardinals sitting at 3-10. Now, they had lost 6 consecutive games, as you remember earlier in the year. And then Kyler Murray got back, and they're 2-2 in their last 4. Jonathan Gannon, I think, has done a great job with this team. You just turn on the tape and watch the effort, and they are playing through the whistle on both sides of the ball, playing hard at the line of scrimmage. There's a lot of fight in them. They don't have all the players they're looking for. Playing a lot of guys on defense, trying to find the right mix. A lot of young players out there on the field for the Arizona Cardinals, especially back in the secondary. They played most of the year with injuries up front on the defensive line at linebacker. Really, when you look at Josh Thomas and Chris Barnes, these guys have been around for a while, but mostly special teams players in pro football, starting at inside linebacker in that 5-man front to 3-4 defense for the Arizona Cardinals. So with a win today, as you said, win the division, hat and T-shirt day, and then at worst a number 3 seed in the playoffs, because the 4 seed will be the winner of the NFC South, and mathematically they cannot catch